Okay, let's get right back into it. And this is going to be the UFC 2 or Bellator 208 breakdown. I'm sorry, Bellator. And Bellator 208 breakdown, Fedor versus Chael Sonnen. And this is a pretty cool weekend for Bellator. I just broke down the Bellator 207 card. Kind of like how they're doing it back-to-back days. Chael Sonnen said a good point. He was saying that they're going to have to battle over main events if they didn't do it this way, and Chael would always skip the main event, obviously. So it kind of breaks down the tension of that, I guess. And you get 2 nights of fights, 2 different fight cards, so I'm not going to complain about it. In the first fight of the nights, Henry Corrales against Andy Main. And this is an interesting fight. Andy Main returned from over a year off, actually, and he picked up a win at LFA 49. And this fight was September 14th, so he's fighting 2 times in less than a month. And Main's a well-rounded fighter. He has some experience against top guys. He holds a victory over Brian Kelleher. He also has a no contest against Felipe Aranches, and he beat Nam Pham. He lost to Jimmy Rivera before, so he's fought some high-level guys. And Main's not a great striker. He's not the greatest athlete. He's very stiff with his stand-up. He stands very tall, and he is long for the division. But, he tries to land long punches and kicks, but it kind of takes away the sting because he's standing so straight up. And he actually has pretty fast hands. He has a good left hook, straight right hand combo. Decent 1-2, decent uppercuts. Instead of putting full power into his shots, he prefers to pitter pat, then throw quick shots to kind of sting you in between his pitter pats with more powerful shots, And he has a very, very good front kick to the body, a nice clinch knee, nice step in knee to the head and to the body. He can overwhelm fighters with volume, and he throws a lot of volume on the feet. Sometimes he makes fighters shoot bad takedowns. But he stands very tall, he keeps his chin high, he stands very flat-footed, and it makes him susceptible to getting pieced up or getting knocked out by more seasoned strikers. But he has a good chin, and when he eats shots, he does a good job closing distance, getting a hold of you and surviving, getting in the clinch. And he kind of reminds me of like a Ryan James, where he's like a straw man, you can unload on the guy, and it's very hard to take him out. He's only been finished 2 fights via strikes in his whole career, so he actually has a good ground game. He's very dangerous with his jiu-jitsu. Fighters are able to close the distance on him and control him, but he does a good job landing body locks in the clinch and trips in that position. He won't really shoot takedowns in space. He really relies on being able to get in the clinch, get the fight to the ground. On top, he's solid. He does a good job getting to the mount where he'll land good ground and pound punches. He has 8 submissions as well. Off his back, he's very good. His guard is dangerous. He keeps a high guard or a rubber guard on his opponents. He throws nice elbows. He'll look for triangles, arm bars. His long body allows for him to have a very effective guard. And the footage I've seen of Main, I did see his most recent fight, but after that, I wasn't really able to see many of his other fights. But he did get a win over Sal Almeida, and he's going to be looking to win in Bellator here. I'm sure he's going to be pumped to get a chance to fight on a big card. And Henry Corrales is a longtime veteran of Bellator. He's fought 6 times there, and he's won 3 consecutive fights. He has been in there with the best in Bellator, such as Daniel Strauss, Patricio Pitbull, Emmanuel Sanchez, Georgie Karakhanyan. And he fights out of the MMA lab. It's a great gym, and he's going to have the cleaner punching technique in this matchup, probably the striking advantage. He's a good boxer, nice jab, good check left hook, nice straight right hand. His 1-2 is snappy, very quick. He has a nice right hook. He has very fast hands in the pocket, throws hard, low leg kicks. He really hurt the lead leg of Nawad Lahat. He has big power, and he has a great chin, so he loves to brawl and usually wins that battle, but he's very hittable himself. He is a decent grappler. He has good takedowns like body locks and double legs. On top, he doesn't have great top control, but he has a few submissions early in his career, none recently. He has a good sprawl. He's very good at defending takedowns against the cage, and when he does get taken down, he has a good get-up game. But being on the ground with Main is not where he wants to be for sure. He has tremendous cardio. He picks up as the fight goes on. And Corrales should be able to win this fight. Main's catchable with punches. I see him, Corrales landing clean. And I'm going to say Corrales wins via 3rd round KO TKO. So I'm going to go with Henry Corrales in that matchup. And up next we have a fight between 2 Russians and Alexander Shlemenko against Anatoly Tokov. And this is a fun fight, man. This is a battle of an up-and-coming Russian against an older Russian. And Alexander Shlemenko is one of the best fighters in Bellator history. And at one time, he's one of the best middleweights in the world. He's a well-rounded fighter, but more well-known for his striking. He has 56 wins. 31 of those are KO TKOs. He's a technical striker. He has Good spinning back kicks to the body. Some of the better spinning back kicks to the body in the sport. He's kind of an unorthodox striker, and he could definitely cause problems for Tokov on the feet. And Shlemenko just got KO'd in his last fight against Bruno Silva, but he was looking good prior to getting clipped. His takedown defense is usually solid, but he can be taken down. He is susceptible to having his back taken. He has quite a few submissions himself. He's a pretty crafty grappler. He will be the smaller fighter here, as he was at 170 in his prime and at his best, and he won't be going for many takedowns in this matchup, in my opinion. He is older, and he's taking a lot of damage. He just got KO'd in June. And Tokov is kind of low output on the feet, but he has a good forward pressure and will occasionally blitz in with a jab hook or right-left hook combo. And he has a lot of power in his hands. He's very explosive. And when he finds his range, he will start to explode forward with hooks. He's athletic, closing distance. He has a good chin, and if he sees you folding or feeling his shots, he'll really start to swarm and try to finish. He is a bit flat-footed. He can be hit himself, but he has a good chin. He's less weathered than Shlemenko, and I think he will have problems with the volume Alexander, but I think when he lands, I think he's going to hurt Shlemenko. And he's a big physical 85er, and when he's losing the striking, he will get his opponents up against the cage, grind while working for takedowns. He's good on top. He has big ground and pound. He has solid takedown defense himself. He's hard to hold down. And this is an interesting fight. I could see Shlemenko controlling it early and then getting cracked and hurt. But ultimately, I see Tokov, maybe having to feel it out a little bit early. Shlemenko's a little bit crafty, but ultimately I think he's the much less weathered guy. I think that he's going to be able to find that chin of Shlemenko, put him down, and ultimately I think he'll finish with ground and pound. So I'm going to go with Anatoly Tokov to win and run his record to 27-2. I mean, that's an impressive record right there. And up next we have Cheick Kongo against Timothy Johnson, and Tim Johnson's going to be making his Bellator debut after coming off a top 15 win in the UFC in his last fight. Tim Johnson is one of these guys that I think is a little bit underrated. But Kongo's coming off a big KO. He's won 6 straight fights in Bellator. He's riding a high here. And Tim Johnson, he's the top 15 ranked fighter in the UFC. So this is a pretty interesting matchup. And Kongo's older now. He's become a much less of a striker, more of a grinder. He still has decent speed when he can get you moving backwards with straight punches. He will throw body kicks. He can go high with the kick, but he's very sloppy. I think he'll be moving backwards in this fight with his back near the cage, try to time Johnson when he closes distance to clinch up with him. And I think he's going to try to clinch, push him against the cage, go for doubles. He has pretty good ground and pound punches and elbows. He can get hit with the overhands, and his chin looks to be very diminished. He has pretty solid cardio, actually. He's done a great job in his time at Bellator, being a winner. But Timothy Johnson's an underrated, underappreciated fighter, in my opinion. He's a big 265-pound heavyweight. He's a former D1 wrestler. He has a good jab. He actually has a quick, straight punches. He has no problem sitting down his punches, throwing down in the pocket. And he throws with big hooks, big uppercuts. You saw him drop Alexander Volkov with an uppercut. His one recent loss in the UFC, he said he was very injured against Junior Albini. And he probably shouldn't have taken the fight. So, I mean, that's something that you have to take into account, because other than that, he's been on a pretty good run. He beat Marcelo Gomes, who was a big time Brazilian prospect who was undefeated. He took out Daniel Malanchek, who's always a tough out. Had a split decision with Alexander Volkov, in which I actually thought he won. He defeated Marcin Tybura. He has a win over Shamil Abdurakhimov. So he's definitely defeated some good opponents, and he has a good underhook when he gets control against the cage. And that's really what I think the battle is going to be. Who's going to have the better control against the cage? And I think that, Tim Johnson's at a camp like Extreme Couture, which is a great camp for pummeling, working against the cage. Obviously, Randy Couture is famous for that. And he's going to have a 20-pound weight advantage. He's going to be the guy that was obviously a lifelong grappler, not Kongo. And I see Johnson as being a big step up in competition for the recent fights that Kongo's had. And a lot tougher matchup for Kongo. Kongo's going to try to implement his clinch game, because I don't think he's going to be able to take the power of Johnson. I see Johnson being quicker with his straight punches and his overhand possibly landing and hurting Kongo. In the clinch, I think Johnson should be able to negate Kongo from controlling him against the cage, maybe even control Kongo against the cage. I think for Kongo to win, he's going to need to take Tim Johnson down, and I see that being a very hard task. I think Tim Johnson's a younger guy. Congo's 43 years old, and Tim Johnson's been finding the better competition. He should get the victory here. Sometimes fighters tend to lose their Bellator debuts coming from the UFC, and I think that's kind of a motivation thing, or maybe it's new jitters in a new organization. But Tim Johnson, I've heard in some interviews, he's been very vocal about this being a big-time fight for him. He's very excited about fighting a guy like Chuck Congo, is that type of name. And ultimately, I'm going to pick Tim Johnson. I think he can actually hurt and finish Congo with strikes, and that's what I see happening. I'm going to go with Tim Johnson via third round TKO, and I'm very confident in that pick, to be honest with you. And up next, we have a fight between Benson Henderson and Sawad Awad. This is an interesting fight. Benson Henderson has had some mixed success over there in Bellator. He's 2-3, and Sawad Awad has won 4 in a row. He's 11-5, but he's getting up there in age. Both guys are actually. Sawad Awad's 35, Benson's 34. This is an interesting fight. One of the longest tenured fighters in Bellator history. I think he might be, other than Michael Chandler, has fought the most times in Bellator history, Sawad Awad, and he's taking on the former UFC champion and Benson Henderson, the former WC champion. And Henderson bounced back with a submission victory after a 2-fight losing streak. And Sawad Awad's on a 4-fight win streak, and he just had a first-round TKO over Ryan Couture. Awad's a striker. He has big power. He has good power in his right hook, but he doesn't really throw his hands much. He's a way better kicker. He has very nice kicks. He has good leg kicks. He'll throw hard leg kicks that debilitate opponents. He has a big right head kick. He can rock fighters with it. Good body kicks. He can get hit himself, but he's inactive at times. He can allow fighters to push him backwards. He is a bit slow, and I think that Benson's going to be the much quicker fighter on the feet. And his grappling is average. He has a decent double leg takedown, good body lock. On top, he'll try to take the back. He has decent back control, good ground and pound, but he isn't very dangerous with his grappling. He can be taken down himself, and he has been submitted 2 times. He has been finished 3 times via KO, TKO, but he does have huge power. He has 10 KOs. He's older now at 35, and I think this is a good fight for Benson. Awad needs to be aggressive, not let Benson control the center and take him down. He needs to try to clip and hurt Henderson, because I find it hard to see him winning decision in this fight. And Benson Henderson is still a good fighter. I think a lot of people wanted to put him in a grave after his first few Bellator fights, but he's still serviceable, man. He's still extremely durable. He's only been finished 2 times in his entire career, 1 by submission, 1 by KO. He had been fighting the top fighters Bellator had to offer prior to being given Huerta, and he bounced back with a win. He still has nice low leg kicks, good body kicks. He has a nice straight right hand, good jab. He's still quick and light on his feet. He has a good right head kick, solid power on it. Very nice step-in knee to the body when fighters close the distance. He showed that against Michael Chandler. He does a great job keeping the pressure and volume on his opponents, walking him down. He also does a good job immediately tackling after grappling scenarios when his opponent usually is tired. He should have the speed and volume advantage in this matchup and just needs to avoid a big shot. He's still a great grappler. He's strong in the clinch. He has good knees to the body. He jumps on guillotines. He has awesome double legs, nice body locks, good singles. And on top, he has good ground and pound. He'll jump on submissions. Very good in the scramble. He's able to get up to end up on top in good positions whenever there's a scramble. He has good Kimuras. He'll attack with a variety of chokes. He's very hard to take down himself. He's obviously extremely hard to submit. And I think Benson has a striking and grappling advantage in this fight. And I think this should be an easy win for Benson Henderson, but he always has to be wary of that power of Sawad Awad. But ultimately, I'm going to say Benson Henderson gets it done and gets the win pretty easily. And up next, we have the main event of the evening. We have the main event of this Bellator weekend, and it's Fedor Emelianenko against Chael Sonnen. And this fight's been built up for a long time, man. I mean, I remember Chael Sonnen cutting promos on Fedor Emelianenko years ago. I mean, when he was fighting Anderson Silva in the UFC, talking about Fedor had these fake fights and, kind of eyeing Fedor even back then. And now he's finally getting a shot at Fedor. I mean, it's pretty crazy. A former 185er. Now he's fighting at heavyweight. He kind of talked this into reality, man. He's been talking about this for years, and he's finally getting his chance. He's called Fedor a bum. He's called him a lot of things, and he's going to get his chance to back up his words here. And Chael looked pretty good in his first fight in the tournament, man. He did a good job of controlling Rampage Jackson with a good jab, decent speed. He showed that he had good lateral movement. He was a little bit quicker than Rampage, landed some takedowns, and I think that's going to be the same game plan that he brings here against Fedor. I think he's going to be moving, trying to land that jab, trying to use his boxing, and then ultimately time a double leg, get inside, get the takedown, and take Fedor to the ground. And I think Fedor's going to be looking to potentially time Chael coming in, land the shot, or he's going to be looking to, just walk him down, put his size on him, and just be the better striker. And I think that, Fedor is pretty tough to take down, man. I don't remember him getting taken down very recently in any fights, and he still has that power, man. I mean, he put out Frank Mir, he dropped Matt Mitrione. He still has a lot of speed for a heavyweight, and I think that that's a major advantage for Fedor in this fight because he's a guy that could potentially have fought at 205, and that was a big advantage for Chael in his first fight against Quinn and Jackson, where he was much quicker, much faster. He was able to move around, and against Fedor, I don't know if he's going to have that big of a speed advantage in that fight, or if one at all. And, Fedor is definitely going to have the power advantage, and it's going to come down to if Chael's going to be able to take him down and control him, in my opinion. And I don't know, man. I really think that Fedor's going to be able to get it done. I know that, I don't know. I'm going to go with Fedor. I'm going to say Fedor wins via second round KO, TKO. I think that he's going to clip Chael, put him down. We saw Chael got dropped by Wanderlei Silva. He's never been finished with strikes, but, he's 41 years old. He's moving up to heavyweight. He's fighting a big guy that's knocked out heavyweight. So, going to definitely be an interesting fight for Chael. If Chael can get a win here, that's a big statement. That's a big feather in his cap for his career. And, Fedor's always been very good in this tournament-type formats, and he's going to be looking to take another tournament, man. I mean, if Fedor could put another capper and win a tournament and retire, that would be a great moment, too. But the winner is going to face the winner of Ryan Bader versus Matt Mitrione in the championship, and I'm sure they're going to be the underdog, but you could never count a guy like Fedor out. You could never count a guy like Chael Sonnen out. They've beaten former champions. They're both proven to be legends in their career, so it's going to be interesting, but ultimately I'm going to go with Fedor in that matchup. And for the parlay of the week for this card, if I had to give you one, I would say to do Anatoly Tokov and Timothy Johnson. But ultimately, I would say to just if I gave you guys a parlay over 3 cards, I would say to potentially use Roy Nelson, Ryan Bader, and Tim Johnson. That potentially could be a good parlay for you guys. I do think that Anatoly Tokov is also a good play as well. Benson Henderson's a good play, but I'm trying to give you guys some fights with some lower odds. I saw Kevin Ferguson Jr. was about like a minus 700. I mean, obviously he's a big-time favorite. Benson Henderson's a big-time favorite. I don't know if I would bet on Fedor versus Chael. I might stay away from that one, but, obviously that's might be a fun fight for some people to bet on. Carrington Banks Mandel Nalu, like I said, I think that Mandel is definitely worth a dog shot. I think I'm going to play Mandel. It's going to be a small play because you don't know everything about him, but I think I'm going to roll the dice on Mandel Nalu, and I do have a big-time bet on Ryan Bader that I've placed, and I also have a place bet on Roy Nelson, so potentially could add some more later. I do bet on MMA Tips, so on Bet MMA Tips, so if you want to check that out, it's linked in my Twitter. And thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, and tell me who you think is going to win the fights this weekend, and if you're looking forward to this Bellator weekend or not. Some people are anti-Bellator, some people are pro-Bellator. What do you think about this weekend? You think that they should have done both the fights on the same night? You like that there's 2 cards in 2 days? Is it too much? What's your opinion on that? Let me know, and thanks for watching, guys.